We are now at stop 1, the Chester Bus Interchange. Opened in 2017, it is the third building in Chester to have a green living roof to help combat city centre air pollution.
Oh yeah.
Shortly as we pass over the Canal Bridge into Frodsham Street, watch out for the opening on the right, which appears to be a small cobbled street. The Roman easterly wall can be seen at the far end of this walkway, and situated in the wall is a gate dating from 1275, which is still known today as the Caerdyard Gate. At this time, our present-day cathedral was then the Benedictine Abbey of St Werburgh. The monks of the day grew a lot of kale in their vegetable gardens, which was situated just outside the walls in the area ahead to the right.
Oh my God,
prior to this time, they had to endure a long walk from the abbey to reach the gardens.
I wasn't expecting to come down here.
Frodsham Street is named after a small Cheshire town about 9 miles away to the east. In the medieval period, it was known as Cow Lane because the cattle were driven along here to the markets and slaughterhouses. Excavations nearby have uncovered a large area of hard, beaten clay ground, surrounded by earth banks, which suggests there was a Roman parade ground here about 2,000 years ago. At a break in the buildings ahead on the right, note the freestanding bell tower of the cathedral, which stands along the city wall. Built in 1974, it is named the Addleshaw Tower, after the dean of the cathedral at that time.
Certainly wasn't expecting this.
No.
Shortly as the bus turns to the left, note the East Gate to the right, and standing proudly above it, Chester's most famous landmark, the East Gate Clock. Built in 1897 to commemorate Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, the clock has become the symbol of Chester throughout the world. Nowadays, it is the second most photographed clock in the country after Big Ben in London. Beneath the clock, the East Gate itself was built in 1769 to replace the medieval gateway. During excavations, the remains of the Roman gateway, known as the Porta Principalis Sinistra, was discovered on the site. We are now in Foregate Street, the eastern approach to the city. From here, the Romans would have marched eastward to York and southwards to London by way of Watling Street. Excavations in this area have revealed evidence of a civilian settlement. The civilian population established their trading area here to serve the needs of the Roman legion who lived within the fortress walls.
Yeah, that was I really wasn't expecting
Imagine that in the busiest time.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Yeah, got to try and get through that lot.
We are now at stop 2, the old Queen's Head Public House, a light here for the Bars roundabout and the suburb of Bourton. The old Queen's Head Public House is one of the many black and white timber frame buildings in the city. On one gable, the date is seen as 1508, whilst on the other side it states 1939. During the Civil War in the 17th century, the royal city of Chester was left devastated, with many of its buildings left in ruins. Since the Victorian era, the city has been greatly altered, with new buildings being constructed and older ones being heavily restored, as seen here.
Yeah, you alright?
We are now at the Bars, an area not actually associated at all with alcoholic beverages, as the name instantly implies. The famous circuit of walls that we see today wasn't its sole defence in medieval times, and the Bars' outer defensive gate stood here to protect the expanding population in the eastern suburbs. During the Civil War in the 17th century, Chester was a royalist stronghold, supporting King Charles I, and as a defensive measure against the invading parliamentarian forces, the royalists built earthworks on either side of the gate thus embracing all the outlying areas. The gate was demolished in 1770, but the name lives on. We are approaching stop 3, City Road. A light here for the Premier Inn and other hotels. As the bus crosses over the canal ahead, look to the right. Beyond the apartments is the lead shot tower. It was built in 1799, and by 1801 it was manufacturing lead shot or musket balls to be used in the Napoleonic Wars. Workers carried heavy lead ingots to the top of the tower, where they were then heated in crucibles until they became molten liquid. Arsenic was then added as a hardening agent. This deadly concoction was then poured down the tower, where it passed through large metal sieves, forming globules of lead. It then landed in a bath of water, and when retrieved, it was perfectly spherical lead shot. Before the bus turns to the left, the last building on the right is the Queen Hotel. Built by the railway companies in 1860, it was the most prestigious hotel in the area and was specifically built to accommodate tourists coming into the city via the railway. The main entrance of the Queen Hotel is actually facing the railway station. Above this entrance stands a statue of Queen Victoria, in whose honour the hotel was named. Note the connecting covered walkway leading from the hotel to the station, and the sign above the open arch, offering carriages and horses for hire. Hotel porters use this walkway to escort the guests to and from the station. Many famous guests stayed at the Queen Hotel, such as the actress Lynn Langtry, the notorious mistress of Edward VII. Cecil Rhodes, the founder of Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, is said to have plotted the Boer War while strolling in the hotel gardens. In 1867, another distinguished guest was Charles Dickens, the famous writer. Arriving in a very severe winter, Dickens complained about his accommodation, comparing his coldness with that of a piece of meat in a larder. We are now at stop 4, the railway station. A light here for local hotels, New Town and the suburb of Hoole.
Which is where we walk from.
The Chester Mystery Plays originated in the 14th century, nearly 700 years ago. Church services were conducted in Latin, and the monks at St. Werburgh's Abbey enacted stories from the Bible to help the poorer, illiterate people to understand. Eventually, this proved too disruptive, and the plays were moved outside the abbey. Various craftsman guilds adopted them, with, for example, the grocers, bakers, and millers performing the Last Supper, and the ironmongers enacting the Crucifixion. The guilds staged their plays on open wagons, which trundled through the streets to venues where audiences had gathered. Mystery plays were banned nationally in the 16th century, with Chester being the last to concede in 1578. Revived in 1951 for the Festival of Britain, they have since been staged every 5 years, proving to be one of the city's most popular attractions. We are now in Station Road, and the railway station is on the right. Thomas Brassey, born locally in 1805, was awarded the contract to construct the building. Although not well publicised, he actually became the most prolific railway builder of Victorian times. When Thomas Brassey died in 1870, such was the magnitude of his work, he left £3.2 million, a vast amount of money in those days. The foundation stone for the station was laid in August 1847, and the grand opening took place on August the 1st, 1848, which meant that it took less than a year to reach completion, an extraordinary achievement. The fashionable London architect Francis Thompson designed the building in the elegant Italianate style, and the station laid claim to the longest facade in the country when it was built, 1,110 feet long.
Yeah.
We now enter Brook Street, and the small building ahead on the right opened as a cocoa house in the Victorian period. As we pass the building, look above the ground floor window, where a decorative sign can be seen, declaring that the building was owned by the Chester Cocoa House Company Limited. Cocoa houses were built by members of the Temperance Society to combat the scourge of alcohol amongst the poor. It was hoped that they would draw the public away from 365 pubs that existed in the city at that time. Entering Hoole Way, we can see directly ahead of us that Chester Cathedral dominates the skyline. In approximately 660 AD, a small Saxon timber church dedicated to St. Peter and St. Paul was founded here by King Wulfhere, father of St. Werburgh. St. Werburgh was born in the 7th century, and she became a revered nun in the Saxon kingdom of Mercia. After her death in 706, her remains were buried in Hanbury, Staffordshire. In the latter half of the 9th century, Vikings were raiding the country, and in order to protect the saint's relics from the marauding Danes, they were brought here to the church within the fortified walls. A shrine, built to house the relics, still stands in the cathedral today. Major changes occurred on the site after the Battle of Hastings in 1066. William the Conqueror gave Chester into the hands of his nephew, Hugh d'Avranches, better known as Hugh the Wolf. Granting him the earldom of Chester, Hugh later founded a Benedictine abbey here. To the right, Chester's 3 super trees, as they are known, can be seen in the sunken garden on the traffic island. Climbing plants will eventually cover the 7-metre high structures in order to give the appearance of more natural trees. The area has been designed to create a habitat for plants and wildlife to flourish. This environmental project to combat air pollution was inspired by David Attenborough's TV programme Planet Earth, which featured the amazing super trees in Singapore. We are now travelling along St Oswald's Way. As we cross over the canal, the building on the left, now the Mill Hotel, was originally constructed as a grain mill to process flour. Built in the 1830s, it was known as Griffith's Mill, and in earlier times the canal side would have been lined with buildings such as this. To the right, look out for the row of buildings with tall chimneys known as Parker's Buildings. Comprising 30 flats, they were built in 1889 to John Douglas's design and were named after Cecil Parker, the first Duke of Westminster's land agent. The buildings were modelled on the New Style tenement buildings in London, considered to be the best form of social housing at that time. The facilities included inside toilets and running water, items that were unheard of amongst the working classes of the day. The Duke, who was a benevolent employer, accommodated his retired estate workers here. As we exit the roundabout Grosvenor Park Road, the red brick building on the left was designed in the Dutch style by the famous local architect, John Douglas. The building date 1884 can be seen in the Flemish-style gable brickwork. For many years this building was used as Chester's first police headquarters until a more modern building replaced it in the 1960s. Also on the left we have more of John Douglas's work from the late 19th century. The church was built in the early English style, and the terrace of houses is considered to be the most decorative brick terrace in the city. Beyond the terrace and again on the left is Grosvenor Park Lodge, which was built as the park keeper's residence in the 19th century. Constructed of stone at ground level with carved half timbering on the upper floor, it is the first known use of black and white timber framing by the architect John Douglas. On the left is Grosvenor Park. Richard Grosvenor, the second Marquis of Westminster, gave this 20 acres of land to the citizens of Chester to provide them with a park for their recreation. The Marquis paid for the design and laying out of the park, and to show their gratitude, the local citizens contributed around £5,000 for a marble statue of the Marquis, which can still be seen in the park today. We are now at stop 5, Vickers Lane. Alight here for Grosvenor Park, the Roman Amphitheatre and St John the Baptist Church. St John the Baptist Church is on the left. Evidence suggests in 689 AD a Saxon minster was founded here. Parts of the present building date to the Norman period, at which point it became the cathedral of the Diocese of Murcia for the next 27 years. The church lost its cathedral status in 1102, eventually becoming a parish church in the 16th century. Part of the east end of the chancel fell out of use, and following the truncation of the north and south transepts, the building is now 1/3 of its original size. Today, the external appearance is a result of Victorian restoration work carried out in the 1860s. St John's is still used for worship today and is always open to visitors. Chester's first public meeting place, the Roman Amphitheatre, is ahead on the left, where it is built in a commanding position on the southeastern side of the fortress. Archaeological evidence suggests that the first amphitheatre was built around 80 AD, later to be replaced by a larger monumental stone structure. The outer walls reached 30 feet, twice the height of the city walls seen ahead, and provided seating capacity for approximately 7,000 people. Recent excavations revealed the outer walls of the two structures. The modern low sandstone walls rest on the top of the original walls buried beneath them. The large mural on the rear wall creates the illusion of how the total amphitheatre would have appeared in Roman times. It was the largest stone amphitheatre built in Roman Britain and is known today as the Lost Colosseum. We are now about to enter Suter's Lane. Please be aware that tree branches may occasionally overhang the bus. Suter is the old word for a shoemaker, and anyone who worked with leather had their tanneries in this area. We shall soon be arriving at the River Dee, where leather workers needed the continual supplies of river water to treat their hides and skins. We are approaching stop 6, the Groves. Alight here for river trips and riverside walks. The river trip takes half an hour, and upon your return, another tour bus will arrive shortly to take you on with the tour. If you have not already purchased a combined bus and boat ticket, then
What?
you can upgrade your ticket with the driver.
You don't go on a
who will
river.
be happy to give advice and save you money.
I would. I've got that.
Would you?
Yeah.
If you want.
This area is known as the Groves and was laid out by the Victorians and became their favourite meeting place.